In today's episode, I will be talking through Succession, the rest of season 1, episodes 6 through 10, continuing on with our Succession series. So, without further ado, let's get right into Succession. Do something, man. People are questioning you. Shut up. Shut up. Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the dub cast. So, starting off with episode 6, titled What Side Are You On? And this is the episode that has changed everything for Succession. The stakes have been upped after this episode. What happens in this episode is the vote of no confidence, and how that the direct lead up to that happens, all the consequences from that. So let's jump into my thoughts and reactions from Which Side Are You On? So, starting it out, we got Stewie and Lawrence need to be convinced to join the side of no confidence against Logan. So Kendall gives the pitch to Stewie, and it's obvious to me that Stewie just is not too excited about this. He doesn't really give Kendall the answer that you'd hope for if you're going to do this vote of confidence, but Stewie, I knew he didn't seem too excited. Just wasn't looking good from Stewie's end. So we cut to a restaurant where Jerry, Frank, Kendall, and Roman are doing the votes, trying to figure out the votes, and this reminded me of Survivor, trying to get these voting scenarios. How do we work this in a way that's going to be to our favor? So, love the voting scenarios, just straight out of Survivor. You got to pull the numbers, see what your numbers are at. I think there was 12 board members, but that could be wrong, but love the scenarios. Try and figure out these votes, play the strategic game of this no confidence vote. So, we cut to Shiv, and Shiv's arc through this 5 episodes, man. Blah. Fuck Shiv. Shiv's fine. So, we go to Tom and Shiv, and it's the usual conversation where Shiv just does not give a fuck about anything that Tom has to say. And Tom's trying to ask her about the wedding. He's talking about his own business. He's asking about just life, and she's only talking about her fucking political candidate, just not listening to Tom at all. So this one-sided relationship continues. I'm not the biggest Tom fan, but Shiv, at least show your man some respect. Be an equal part of this relationship. Whatever. So they get in the car, and Shiv, once again being toxic, has had one conversation with her mother where she has decided that the wedding's going to be in England, in London. So, good for you, Shiv. You got the wedding where you want it, I guess, by just deciding that. So, Tom's like, well, my friends are here. My family wants to do it in the U.S. No, it's going to be in England. It's going to be in London because Shiv's mom wants it to be there. So, Greg and Tom are doing the usual chit chat, and this is our first interaction between them post the paper scene where Greg saved the scenes, and Tom's asking him, like, yo, it's good. Did you do everything right? And obviously Tom's not going to realize because he's an idiot, but Greg's poker face is fucking horrible. You could just tell something was up with him, that he did something, or maybe that's a nod to the audience. I don't know. It just made it seem obvious that Greg just couldn't have a good poker face here. I don't know. Greg, you got to work on your poker face, my man. So Tom notices that Roman and Kendall are in a room and are scheming about the vote of no confidence. So he comes in and says, "What's going on? What's happening here?" And they just own him, like, psychologically. They're just like, "What's going on?" He's like talking about his relationship with Shiv, and Roman's like, "What's it like to fuck our sister?" And it's just like a weird scene, but Tom is just in like awe of them and loves everything about them and being in this conversation, being involved in these complicated and important conversations. But Roman and Kendall just use him as a piece in their game, obviously. So cut back to Shiv and this fucker Nate, and it's made apparent that there has been a past between them. They used to date. I thought this was obvious in the way they're flirting, but the flirting and romance between them continues. Yeah, we'll get more into this later, but Shiv, come on, man. So Marsha I figured is somehow clued in on this shit. She calls Kendall for a dinner before the vote of no confidence. I thought for sure she knew somehow because it seems like Marcia somehow always fucking knows what's going on. That turned out to be wrong, but that was my conspiracy theory early on, is that Marcia somehow knew about it, but I guess she just had to leave the house. And um, Logan's gonna have dinner with Kendall. They're gonna have burgers and no steamed fish that Marcia left. So sorry, Marcia, your fish go uneaten. So we cut to Roman, and Roman is with Lawrence. His task is to convince Lawrence, while Kendall is to convince Stewie, because Lawrence hates Kendall, and that was made obvious from like the first couple minutes of the episode, the first couple minutes of the whole show. So it seems like Lawrence is kind of on board, but it seems like Roman actually made a decent pitch to him. But I knew he was probably playing another game. He's not gonna get involved in this shit. He just follows where the money is and where the power is, just like Stewie. So yeah, moving on to Tom, where Tom is with Kendall, and Kendall comes in and just again owning him is like, "Are you Team Kendall?" And Tom's like, "Yeah, I'm Team Kendall," basically. And Kendall and Tom's relationship is something I'm monitoring moving forward. It's super funny to me, just their relationship, because Tom is just in awe of everything that Kendall does and wants to be his best friend. I'm forgetting the specifics of the conversation, but basically he's like, "If I need you to do something, could you do something for me?" And Tom's like, "Yeah, I got you, Team Kendall." So Greg and Tom hit the club. Once this elephant is off their shoulders, which Greg and Tom is just a weird fucking duo, man. Just completely opposite personalities. We'll get into more later through these episodes about their dynamic, but just Tom is like a 40-year-old man who's about to get married is hitting the club with Greg, who's like a 25-year-old who just got money for the first time. They're just kind of alone in the club. They get their own table with bottle service, but they're the only two people at the table, listening to a good song and just drinking like wine with, or drinking champagne with gold in it or some shit. So something I wanted to note from this episode is I love the music, the theme music from the original, or the theme song of the whole show. I love how they use that like basically interchangeably in every episode to build up the tension. I love the little cuts of the music they play. So I thought good job on Succession. They keep this consistent theme throughout, and it really adds tension to the room and to the scenes in which it plays. So I'm really loving that part of this show so far. So back to fucking Nate and fucking Shiv. He's giving her foot massages. Oh please, we know where this is going. This guy's a fucking simp for Shiv. Um, we learn later on that basically Shiv's like, "I had fun playing with you, but you're just like a broken toy, whatever." Nate's just, I don't know. This dynamic is just going to continue, at least for this season. It's been a strong part up until the wedding, but we'll get to that later. So they talk, and Nate's like, "Should we bang? I really want to bang." And Shiv's like, "Nah, we should wake up and be good people." So is Shiv actually doing the right thing for once? I'll say yes in the scene. It doesn't seem like they actually slept together, so good for Shiv. Finally not being a piece of shit and just, well, obviously she's like basically cheating in this episode, but good job not going all the way. For Roy family standards, good for you. So finally, we lead to the climax of this episode and basically of the season so far. We got Kendall trying to make his way to the vote of no confidence. He, in my opinion, makes the right move of going back to double back with the girl in the who has cancer. Forgetting her name at the moment, sorry. But he had needed to secure that vote. She didn't know what was going on. She's probably gonna vote with Logan if Kendall didn't tell her through the phone or whatever. But he ends up getting stuck in traffic, and basically he's like, "Let's take the helicopter," and the helicopter driver's like, "We ain't taking that shit because the airspace is filled up. There's been an attack." Um, and then he tries to take a taxi. They get stuck in the tunnel, and at this point, I was like, "Fucking Logan pulled some shit so that Kendall wouldn't be able to get there." But there's actually a terrorist attack, which I think is something I'm gonna explain later on, but is actually a pretty good point of this episode. So Kendall is actually going to run to the meeting, which is respectable. Got to get those steps in, got to get the run in. Just thought that was funny. Um, Run, Kendall, run. You got to get in there and get your pitch. So this scene of Kendall when he's trying to get to the vote of no confidence and get to the Roy building. It's like the apocalypse in there. It's like Walking Dead. There's nowhere to go. All the cars are stopped. You can't go anywhere. So I wanted to draw that comparison. Can't go in the air. There's nowhere to move. There's no cell service. He tries to make a call. So Kendall has to phone in, which obviously is a bad look and is just super awkward because they're stalling for him. Frank takes attendance for the first time ever. Him and Jerry are trying to screw with things so that he can get there in time to give his pitch and give the vote of no confidence. But it's not going to happen. Kendall's too late and not there on time. So he's got to phone in. He's got to try and give his pitch over the phone, which he actually gives a very good pitch over the phone. Seems like it was rehearsed. Good job to Kendall. Team Kendall, as always, for me. But a well thought out pitch, a well rehearsed pitch, a good pitch, but he's not there in person, so they can't do anything about it. Just makes it seem weaker and awkward for Kendall to not be there. So that's already a negative point in their direction, and they haven't even started the vote. To pile onto this, Logan is not leaving during the vote. He's gonna fucking cheat, even though that's like a legal rule that you're supposed to leave during a vote of confidence. As CEO, you're not supposed to be in the room, but Logan's like, I ain't fucking leaving. He pulls the Leo shit, but he's cheating. He throws it out there that he's sick. This will result in a later lawsuit from Kendall once the result of the vote happens. But Logan cheating during the vote, I'm shaking my head, but he's a businessman at heart. He knows what's best for him. He knows all the moves, so respect for the move, but also not respect for the move because I'm Team Kendall and this fucked with my team. So we go around the room, and there's only a couple votes to no confidence Logan, basically. I don't know the term or the verb to use there, but we got Kendall, we got Frank, we got Asha, I think her name is, and then one person from the phone, the woman with cancer. So this is not going to end well for Kendall because the room, they needed more people to be on board so that the middle of the vote people like Stewie and Lawrence would side with them. In Survivor, we call this a swing vote. The swing votes just stayed neutral and didn't even vote. So it's going to come down to Jerry and Roman, and Jerry, being her smart self, just follows where the votes are. She doesn't give her pitch that like she was supposed to about being pro no confidence. Even though she was part of this whole scheme, she stays silent and keeps her job, which good for her. And so Logan is going to go ahead and fire everyone who voted to give him the vote of no confidence. So Kendall, Asha, and Frank are out of the company at the end of this episode. So fucking Roman, of course, is not going to vote. He tries to do like a little half vote, but wasn't actually going to vote because his dad's like, you better be fucking smelling your armpit, Romulus. But this fucking prick won't do it, of course. He's a rat and a weasel. Can't ever step into the moment and do something. He's all talk. He's no game. So I'm anti-Roman as of this episode. So Connor gets the call about the vote, and he's getting his scenics in. Respect for the scenics. We find out later where he is in this episode, but respect to Con getting those scenics in, just not being a part of the family, finding out everything through the call. Doesn't really have a part in this, but just learns the information. So Logan is in contact with the president. So this was another part of this episode I missed, where he actually went to the White House and came back because the president was dealing with a terrorist threat, which we find out is actually a terrorist being there in the actual like New York City or whatever. So at the end of the episode, we got Team Kendall down bad, man. We're not looking good, Team Kendall out there. Just not a great outcome for Kendall. I really thought he did a good job with this and organizing, but his soldiers at the end of the day just wouldn't line up for him. He needed Roman. He needed Jerry to speak for him. He needed one or two more votes. Could have done a better job convincing Stewie and Lawrence, but they were always going to stay in the middle and just follow where the votes are because they're just interested in where the money is and where everything's going with the company. They'll just follow that. So we end the episode with the song "Which Side Are You On?" and this was a gas ending to this episode. Easily the best episode of Succession that I've seen up to this point through the first 6 episodes. You can debate it with a couple other ones later on, but I think I'm going to name this my favorite episode of the season, which is probably not a hot take, but one of the aspects I wanted to touch on, just that I mentioned before, was the terrorist attack. So through the lens of the Roy family, there's this like national terrorist attack threat happening this whole time. We see it affect Logan, we see it affect Kendall, and they just don't give a shit about it because they're all worried about their company and their own family and the vote of no confidence. So I thought this was a really interesting way of doing it from the showrunners and the directors and stuff. I thought that this was props to them. This was really cool way to show that this family, when you're rich, you just don't give a fuck about the terrorists and whatever affecting the common people. So props to them for showing that. So as usual, I'll go into my favorite and least favorite characters. Our least favorite character from this episode. So favorite, this was a tough one for me to give a favorite to. I'd love to give it to Kendall, but he loses the vote, so we stay with winners here. So my favorite, I'm gonna go with Logan. Um, Basically, we get to see his boss side come out, and he just grills everyone who votes against him, and basically grills everyone who's in the middle to voting for him. So he gets to keep his way. He gets to keep the company. He keeps it like nothing would change besides people he fired. So favorite, I'm going Logan. Least favorite, I'm going Roman. He talks all the game, doesn't do shit about it when the time comes. Seemed like that's going to be a common trend for Roman. So Roman, least favorite once again. Let's move on to episode 7. Episode 7 is titled Austerlitz. So, jumping right into this one, one of Logan's main guards slash people that he runs with is named Colin. So I got respect for that. Always love to see a Colin out there. Logan's going to be walking into work and he's going to get pelted with something that we see from protesters. Turns out it is a urine balloon, and I had not been privy to this idea of a urine balloon, but that must suck for Logan to get pelted with that. He's got a shirt guy though. He's gonna get a new shirt, but people are not happy with Logan and the way he is running things. So Logan is going to have a meeting with all of his people about what to do and how to move forward after the vote of no confidence. It seems like things are kind of running awry. So Stewie's in this meeting, and respect to Stewie, he's going to keep it real with Logan. This is horrible optics about Kendall being kicked out. There's questions about everything, so they need to come up with a strategy. Stewie in this moment's just being a boss and grilling him. So Stewie's got the money, he's got the respect. Logan has a funny line though about mentioning drinking. I love how my son's drinking buddy is here with me, but Stewie ends up getting a little bit of his way here. So we get this funny montage of all of the siblings finding out about this plan that they have to do family therapy, basically do a press thing where they're going to show that they're doing therapy together and are a good, happy family. So we see Shiv's reaction, we see Connor's reaction where he's like, whoa, people want to come see me because they're going to go to his place in New Mexico, and Roman's reaction. So, cut to Kendall, and this is a really bad start to the episode for Kendall, but it picks up later on. But I feel sad for him. He's on the phone with Rava, and Rava has news from one of their kids' Instagram that Kendall is back on drugs and back addicted to everything. Someone linked an article, which both of their kids are like 12, so I don't know. They're younger even, so I don't know what kids have Instagram in like second grade, but carry on. Anyways, sorry, Kendall. This leads him down the path of everyone thinks he's doing drugs, so he's like, might as well do them, as we see later on. But sorry, man. This is tough. Clearly, Rava is someone that he cares a lot about, and she doesn't even believe him about being on drugs and not being sober. So, what are you going to do, Kendall? Just sucks, man. I'm sorry. So basically, everyone else, all the other siblings, are going to head to the ranch. Shiv, Logan, and, well, Logan's not a sibling, but Shiv and Roman are going to head to the ranch along with Logan. And this is their first time, like, outside at a ranch. They're all, like, make these comments about basically being outside for the first time in a while. Like, they've never been to a ranch. It's funny seeing their reactions to all that. So, of course, we get our typical Roman and Shiv still bantering, still bickering, which is a funny dynamic that continues to develop throughout the show. So, once everyone's kind of brewing in the house before the therapy starts, we see Roman say that He's going to tell everyone in therapy that Connor sexually abused him as a child. And this is one of the funnier aspects of this episode is Connor just taking everything way too seriously. He takes Roman's joke way too seriously about child abuse. He's like, bro, I never did that. You can't say that. And we see a scene later on in therapy where they develop that. So one of the weird things I've been noticing is there's this Tom and Connor rivalry. I don't know what it's about. It seems like they always have quips ready for each other. I'm not sure if I missed something there, but it seems like they're on the opposite sides. So once again, we get Shiv and Tom in the room ready before this, and I got a question for the audience. Does Shiv even like Tom? I don't understand their romance at all. Um, During the wedding, we get better stuff, but that's later on in this review, so I don't know. At this point, I was like, does Shiv even like Tom? I don't know. So we go to the first therapy session, which ends up being the only therapy session where Logan just keeps rehearsing the line about doing everything for his kids, and yeah, we see Logan's going to take the corporate approach to this therapy session. He's going to just spew bullshit and hope that it sticks, that the therapist takes his side, even though everyone else is against him, sort of. So once they're all in there, he just says that line over again, and Shiv's like, come on, dude. Meanwhile, outside, we have a great trio between Marcia, Willa, and Tom. So my question to the audience is, who do you guys think is the most normal of these three? My vote is for Willa. She gets attacked, basically, by them, but we'll get on. Oh, wait, no, we won't get on to that later. So she gets attacked by Marcia, telling her about how one of her friends was a French prostitute and died. So thanks for that, Marcia. Poor Willa, man. Seems like she is just attacked at all these family events. So Kendall is in the area as well for some reason. Not sure if he got wind or whatever, but he's going to head to a bar and he's going to order a sparkling water. But then he is going to order a double Smirnoff on the rocks, which sucks. I hate watching people relapse on shows when they're so, especially clean. It seems like Kendall's been clean for a while. This gave me Christopher Moltisanti vibes, even though he was not really trying to be clean. But sucked to see Kendall relapse, man. As we see, this leads him down a dark path, basically the rest of the season. But he's gonna be drinking in the bar, meet some guys, and we leave him there. So Tom is trying to get the drama, which is exactly what I'd be doing in this situation. Got to figure out what happened. Figure out what happened in the therapy session. He's trying to pry information from Shiv, even though nothing really happened, so it wasn't really that productive. But Tom's trying to figure out everything. So respect for the drama scoop. I'd be in there too. Like, what happened? You got to tell me everything that happened. So Willa and Connor are going to agree to a more intense relationship. It seems like Connor is basically just bankrolling her and forcing her to be in this relationship. Not forcing, because she has options too, of course, but Connor's gonna be like, we should do more intense relationship. She's like, okay, yeah, that could work. And he's like, I love you. And then she's like, I love you too. She hesitates. So something to note moving forward. Not sure how much it seems like in this relationship, Connor's way more into it than Willa is. But I guess we'll see later on where that develops to. So back to Team Kendall. He's doing fucking meth, and this is not good for Team Kendall. Stock is going down rapidly for Team Kendall. He's in a meth house with a bunch of crackheads, basically. They're funny, though, with the apes and shit. And, they're funny, but not good for Kendall. So we got the therapist during their lunch session is going to jump in the pool with Willa and Roman. So he's going to dive head first, even though they're just trolling him. He dives head first, hits his fucking head, and loses his teeth and whatever. I don't know what the plan was here, boy, but I guess that's that. So basically therapy's over because the doctor hit his head and is going to have to go to the ER. So this candidate that Shiv has been messing with, not messing with, but the guy she's been messing with, Nate, his candidate Gil, he mentions he's going to fuck with Logan, and Shiv's like, you know what, I'm on board, I'm taking this job, I don't give a fuck about Logan. So interesting development here where Shiv is going against her father in a political campaign. So Logan is going to have this conversation with Roman. They're the only two that end up taking the picture because Logan is kind of pissed everyone else off. Um, but so they take this walk, or I don't know if they're on the walk at this point. I'm assuming they are, but he tells Roman that he's going to supervise this rocket launch, and Roman is surprised. It seems like that he actually has to do something as COO. So as chief operating officer, you actually have to do stuff, Roman. This is your dad testing you to see how things go, but he doesn't take it that way. He's like, damn, I actually have to do something. So back to fucking Nate and Shiv. Shiv leaves the therapy to go talk to Nate because, of course, to get the job from Gil, but she's back with Nate in the hotel room, and Nate is just a fucking predator, man. I'm sorry, bro, but he's always trying to reach in and grab shit, and, bro, like, get the message. Although Shiv, I think, is kind of leading his ass on, so I don't know, man. This is just a weird dynamic. I think we need less of this on the screen and more of the more interesting characters and the more interesting dynamics going on, but we're going to get our fucking Nate and Shiv fill for the rest of the season. So, one of the good lighthearted moments and actually like human moments from this episode is Roman realizing that Kendall's on drugs because Kendall calls him and is like, hey, I got this idea. And Roman's like, are you high? And he's like, no. Well, I took like 7 lines of coke and I'm doing meth right now. But Roman's like, all right, drop me a pin. I'm going to come pick you up. And Logan's like, you got to go get him. So respect to Logan. He still loves Kendall, even though despite all their turmoil. So Roman, major respects to Roman in this episode. He actually goes and gets Kendall from the druggies, from the crackheads. He's pretty chill around them too. Seems like this has happened before where he's had to go make the rescue. So respect to Logan for being a good person. I mean, not Logan, Roman for being a good person here and saving his brother from further trouble. Has some funny interactions with the druggies, but he's going to take Kendall back to the ranch. So back at the ranch, Kendall walks in, and basically everyone just has everyone has a battle with Logan, coming to a head here where everyone is battling one-on-one. Logan is just super mean to Shiv, super mean to Kendall. He admits that he was the one who planted the stories about Kendall, and I love Shiv here, standing up for her brother Kendall. And Logan is just so mean to Shiv and Tom. Tom, you got to stand up for yourself here, my boy. Can't get owned by like this. I mean, I understand it. He's basically your boss, but you can't just take this shit. He says like that he's just like a loser, and I forget the exact words, but he calls Shiv like some sort of bitch. It's bad. Logan, way too far, man. So Kendall walks in high and just starts grilling everyone. Talks about Logan, tells Logan about how he hates the fact that he gave his kids everything, and Kendall kind of cooked here. He's kind of right. High Kendall is definitely someone to watch moving forward. He's funny, but obviously he's high and just trying to stay sober. So I don't like. It's like a weird dynamic because I love High Kendall, but we shouldn't love High Kendall because he's supposed to be sober. But he kind of cooks when he's high, so obviously the show has already happened, so whatever happens. I'm just here for the ride. So at the end of the episode, we're going to go to Kendall, getting some scenics outside the ranch, and of course you can't get your scenics without snorting 3 lines of coke. So that's where we leave off with episode 7. So favorite of this episode was actually Roman for once, maybe twice. I don't know. I'll pull up a tally at the end of this whole series and see where everyone landed, I guess. But Roman, he showed up in a great way for Kendall and showed he legitimately cared about his brother. Went to go pick him up, knew the system of how to do it, and executed perfectly. So good for him. He gets assigned a project from Logan too, does the photo shoot with him. So Roman's in the good graces as of this episode. My least favorite is Logan, planting the shitty stories about Kendall, which we saw actually influence his relationship with Rava and his kids, and actually probably was one of the reasons that he got back on drugs. Basically, he's an asshole to Kendall, Shiv, and Tom, and was just using this whole event as a publicity stunt. So, gonna go with Logan for least favorite. Sorry, man. Let's dive into episode 8, titled Prague. So, in this episode, we have Tom's bachelor party with other things happening. So Logan opened the episode with a deal going on between some sort of person that they're making a deal with. I don't know what the specifics were. We got everyone who's still on the board in the room with them. Seems like Logan's kind of getting schemed on in this thing, in this interaction, but it turns out they're the ones doing the scheming. Um, Logan gives his usual fuck off and tells Roman to go lower the deal, so they think the other guy's too happy, and so they want to lower the deal. I don't know. Just a weird interaction to start this off. So, coming out of that meeting, Roman's going to see Greg and just slap the shit out of him because, of course, that's what you do when you see Greg and you're Roman. Just why, man? Didn't love it. Poor Greg, man. Just got a job. He's going to get slapped at any moment by Roman. So, we got Stewie. Continuing on from one of the earlier episodes, he's going to continue to scheme with Sandy for Ness. So they're cooking up something. We find out later in this episode what it is. So moving on, we have Frank and Kendall teaming up in this episode, and they're going to make a pitch for this art website that they're looking to acquire. So I thought that this pitch, not Kendall's best work, but not his worst work either. Thought it was decent. He's got the shoes on. He takes them off. He's like, listen, I know what the people are saying about you, but let's team up with me. You can do it. And I can give you all these sort of benefits. Seems like they listen to him with open ears. We find out later on what's going to actually detract from this deal, but I thought it was a decent deal from here. So moving on to Greg again. He is going to be waiting for 3.5 hours to meet with Logan, which if you're ever waiting for something for 3.5 hours, this better be very important, which this conversation probably could be duly noted as important. What do you guys think? I think it was probably worth the wait. So Greg is going to be tasked with the one to watch Kendall at the bachelor party, make sure he's not doing drugs, doesn't go down that dark path. Logan still looking out for Kendall. And in return, Greg asked if he can be moved out of his division. He wants to move out of the Parks division. Doesn't like working under Tom, doesn't like the bosses, says some of them get angry sometimes. So we'll see what happens with this. Could Greg get promoted or moved out of his division under Tom? Which I would actually appreciate that because Greg and Tom's dynamic is weird. So Roman is going to be the one to set up this bachelor party. I think he's the best man. I don't know because at the wedding they give speeches, but so Roman is going to set this up. They're at this train station. All the guys from the family, Roman, Kendall, Tom, Connor, going to be with Tom for his bachelor party, and his two friends show up, the fly guys, the guys who had to fly in for this, and they're left there. This is brutal by Roman. These poor guys were here to celebrate their friend Tom, but Roman's like, we don't have room for anyone not in the family, basically. He's like, go buy coffee. They're like, yeah, fuck off, we can buy our own coffee, and they don't get to come to the bachelor party, which we'll get into now. So we get Kendall just not giving a shit about Stewie. Stewie's going to try and lay some eggs here to get him to do his thing, but Kendall doesn't give a shit. He just respects him ultimately because Stewie fucked. Well, actually, let me cut back. So Stewie, he doesn't give a shit about Stewie not voting the vote of no confidence, and then he just still respects him, still goes to him as his friend. And then he's going to end up asking Greg for ketamine, which becomes a running theme of this episode, with Kendall just asking Greg for ketamine throughout the night, as Greg's trying to prevent him from getting that ketamine. So this is a funny kind of back and forth here between Kendall and Greg. We get an Eyes Wide Shut reference, which is a movie I've actually recently watched in the past couple of months, so that was interesting to see come up here with people in masks. This kind of underground thing that they go to for the bachelor party. It's like a weird vibe, but it's like you can do whatever you want, sexually, with drugs, with alcohol, whatever you want. So that's the Eyes Wide Shut reference there. So shout out to Eyes Wide Shut. So Connor's got some advice for everyone. So if you ask where they were on 9/11, you can figure out if they are 21 or not. So a little tip for you guys, if they know where they were on 9/11, they're over 21. If not, they're not. So life advice from Connor. He's trying to hit on people at the club. yeah, the weirdness of Connor continues. So Stewie is going to ask Kendall for his part of the company. They have this whole setup with Furness, and he's basically like a shell owner of the company. I'm not sure how exactly this works, but they're going to take Kendall's share and basically just do a hostile takeover. And Kendall is impartial at first. He doesn't really know where he wants to go with it. We'll see later on where he ends up making his decision, but I don't think initially he's like, I don't think I want to do this. He basically has to fuck over his whole family to do this, so it's going to be a tough decision for Kendall. But Stewie brings it to the table with all the recent drama happening, and we get Kendall once again asking Greg for ketamine. I think the duo of Stewie and Furness is shady as fuck. They just seem like they've been running this operation behind closed doors for a while, and Furness, I don't think I trust him. You have to go to this underground club to have a conversation with him. Alright, like, I don't know, just don't trust Furness. Stewie seems like he's kind of just a rat, will follow the money, so yeah, not trusting Stewie and Furness as of right now. We get this awkward combo where they're talking with Kendall, Stewie, and Furness, and then Roman pulls up because there's some sort of reason why Roman needed to have this conversation. It's just super awkward where Kendall and Roman basically break off the conversation and talk about how Roman was placed in a dog cage as fun growing up and ate out of a dog bowl, which continues on with this weird trend of Roman's history. I'm not really sure what's up with him. He seems like kind of a weird guy, but yeah, we're going to find out more about this conversation later. So we get the girl from the art app is actually at this club, and she basically just tells Kendall, yeah, it's not going to work. He gets the notification from Frank that they declined the deal, and she just grills him saying it's like getting into bed with Hitler to get into bed with a Roy. So basically Kendall's name is the only reason that they declined the deal, so that's got to be tough for Kendall. Kendall gets upset, and there's this sort of funny scene where Kendall's like, I'm going to do these 6 lines of coke, and if I take all of them, I'm going to die, and if not, if you have to take some to Greg, if not, I'm going to die. And once Greg tells him why he's there watching over his shoulder and everything. So bad influence Kendall basically forces Greg to do coke for the first time. I'm shaking my head, Kendall, not cool. Greg's doing coke, and Tom's going to be the one to tweak him out, trying to be the guy in the room that just has to tweak the guy doing drugs for the first time. Not cool, Tom, either, so not good on you guys for doing this. So Logan's going to reconcile things with Shiv after their sort of breakdown of their relationship last episode, and it seems to be going well, and then he pulls the threats out of his head. So he's going to threaten Shiv with all these things that he can do to her and her past and Tom and whatever. So Logan just can't have a civil conversation with his kids. Always got to be some sort of thing. So Roman, once again, acting bigger than he is. We saw he's all bark with no bite. He's just barking here, trying to act bigger. Come on, Roman. So let's talk about the Tom episode, the closed loop system. Jesus, man. So Tom, throughout this episode, is on the phone with Shiv, making sure that it's okay if he cheats. Basically, she gives the full go-ahead because she's been fucking with Nate for like 3 episodes now. And so Tom sees a girl. They have some sort of sexual interaction where he is going to ejaculate into her mouth, and then after that she keeps it in her mouth and they kiss, and he swallows his own ejaculation. So what even is there to say about this? Just really fucking odd, Tom. Not sure I've ever even heard of this ever in like anything ever, Tom. I'm at a loss for words, man. I don't. Well, he says he didn't cheat because it never went into someone else's hole or something. It was just like, oh God, Tom. So there's Tom's bachelor party. Meanwhile, Kendall is scheming with Furness. He's gonna do the deal after he gets tipped off from Connor about some sort of thing that his dad did to him and sending the dog off. I don't know. So once Logan and Shiv's conversation breaks off, he's going to have Marsha call her and let her know that he's not going to be attending the wedding. And Shiv's decent about it. She's like, yeah, I had 2 less dinners for the people to set up. Which, come on, Logan, you got to go to your fucking daughter's wedding. We'll see that he eventually does, but him calling out is a bitch move, and come on, man. So it's the end of the night. They get the cars at 5 a.m., and it's a cool shot here. We have Greg, Roman, Tom, and Connor standing on one side in black, and then Kendall's on the other side. So well shot scene there. Just cool to see that dynamic for a couple seconds. And we end the episode with Kendall basically just going full spite mode. He wants to sink the art chicks, and he's going to do his deal with Furness and Stewie to take out the majority of the company like they plan to do with the hostile takeover. So that's where we leave off with episode 8. Once again, Tom, 2 thumbs down, 4 thumbs down. Tom just did not need to hear about this, and I don't know why you're bragging about it. You're weird, bro. That's all I'm gonna say on that. So my favorite from this episode was Cousin Greg. Give him the nod here. Him following around Kendall and his funny one-liners, trying to make Kendall not do drugs. Respected to Cousin Greg for this episode. Least favorite is Logan. Once again, being a dickhead to my girl Shiv, bitching out of the wedding. Fuck you, Logan. Episode 9 is titled Pre-Nuptial. I'm probably pronouncing that word wrong, so kill me in the comments. So we start, this episode is the wedding, most of the wedding, or before the wedding. So Tom is here with his family, and his family gets off the bus. He's trying to run this whole thing because he didn't like the way the wedding planner set everything up. His parents get off the bus, and Tom still calls his dad Daddy. Says all you need to know about Tom, just, I don't know, childish, not ready for the real world, even though he's in the real world, I don't know. We get our Fly Guys reemerging with Tom. Finally, his friends get to come to the wedding and be a part of the wedding, so good for them. We get a great quote from Gil once he realizes that Logan may actually show up to the wedding. He goes, "I'm in a knife fight here. I'm holding a dildo made out of American cheese." So, good quote for Gil. Props to Gil for the quote there. Respect. So Tom and Shiv are discussing the last name arrangement, where Tom floats the idea of her being a Wamsgam, them going Wamsgam Roy, or what ultimately I think he actually wants is for his last name to become Roy, which is just typical because you want that Roy last name, you want that clout. We've seen what last names can do for you in America. So Tom wants that Roy last name to be officially part of the family. Clearly, he's been trying to get into this family for all these episodes so far, so interesting there. Shiv is basically going to try and angle with him for the cruise information because now she's working with Gil, so she needs to take him down or have leverage on her father. So at first, she's just trying to playfully get it out of him. He doesn't really bite. He doesn't want her to know, but we'll see what happens later on. So Greg shows up late to the wedding, and I should mention that Kendall, Roman, and Shiv's mother is at the wedding, which this is our first time meeting her. She's a fun character to follow along with here in this episode and next episode, where we see her personality versus Logan. She's kind of this person who's not afraid to say what she thinks either. So I liked her here, where she calls Greg the Egg because he looked like an egg growing up. Good nickname for Greg the Egg. So we got Roman here. He's brought a date with him. It is Tabitha, the girl that did unspeakable things with Tom from the bachelor party. I think Roman's trolling here. He's trying to have this angle over Tom and keep his domination over Tom, mental domination over Tom. It's clear that he's trolling. I think Roman doesn't really seem to be interested in women. Could be wrong, but I think he's just doing things for power and for the idea of having this one over on Tom if he can pull it out at any moment because she's right there dating him. So Kendall is going to be tasked with not telling anyone. And then, of course, right away he tells Frank about the plan to take the hostile takeover, which is called a calamari cock ring. Interesting term use there. Right off the rip, this is a bad idea from Kendall. Just gotta keep your mouth shut, man. That's one of the things you need in life, is to just not say things that don't need to be said. But he tells him, so it's already in doubt. So Logan, of course, is going to end up coming to the wedding, which is awkward for basically everyone involved because everyone has beef with him right now besides like Roman. Gil is there, who doesn't want to see him. So yeah, the mother's at the wedding. She makes a comment about being jealous of Marcia, a little bit, or makes it seem like she's jealous of Marcia. Seems like Marcia has everything together and may have stole Logan's affection from their mother. I don't know. I guess maybe there's more to see, more to find out here. She calls her some sort of like Eastern European name or something. So we get Roman and Gil meeting for the first time, which is awkward. Just an awkward interaction where it seems like all the siblings' interactions with Gil are super awkward. So, of course, Nate has been invited to this wedding, and we have this funny scene where he is going to actually talk to Tom, introduce himself to Tom, and Tabitha is going to introduce herself to Shiv. So both of the people that they were cheating with before their wedding talk to the other person. So they both don't realize in the moment, but that is a funny interaction to see occur on the screen without both characters knowing, but you as the viewer know. So Tom sees the vibes happening between Nate and Shiv. There may be an actually, I think that's later on. There's some sort of weird thing going on where he notices that he's super into her, and there's some sort of dynamic there. So they go up to the room, and Tom's like asking about what happened with Nate, and Shiv somehow turns the situation into talking about Tom's cruise information, and he's gonna throw it all away. Of course, he's like laying down. Of course, simp Tom will do anything for Shiv, so he gives away all that info. We get another awkward Rava and Kendall conversation after Kendall just snorted like 5 lines of coke in the bathroom, and Rava is like, "Are you good?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm good." So I don't know. Just Rava and Kendall's dynamic continues to be just odd and awkward as we move along here. So we got Nate just being way too forward again. This is later on, probably after like the rehearsal dinner, where he is grabbing a little butt from Shiv, and Greg sees it. So, oh boy, what's gonna happen here? Will Greg spill the beans? So, of course, Jerry knows about the plan to do the hostile takeover, and Logan just grills Kendall. He doesn't know about it yet, but he's just going to continue to grill his son because of their breakup during the vote of no confidence. So my message to Shiv is stop walking around with fucking Nate at your wedding, bro. Like, you're marrying Tom. Stop walking around with this loser. And she's just working the whole week, like with Gil and Nate, while they're all in the same room. Like, what's the problem here? Like, there's no presidency to chase when your president candidate's right with you in the room. Like, Shiv, it's your wedding. Enjoy Tom. Enjoy the day. Rue the day. Let's go. Live a little. You don't need to be fucking working all the time and have your hand up Nate's pants. Jesus. So, Marcia and Logan going up to bed, and Marcia, of course, the night before the wedding, has to call Shiv a spoiled slut. So that's really awesome, Marcia. That's really great. You should keep doing that. Call people spoiled sluts the night before their wedding. That's really awesome, Marcia. Continue to be a great stepmother to Shiv. So good job, Marcia. And Marcia, I don't like Marcia. I haven't really vibed with her throughout this whole thing. We'll see where this leads, but I feel like she's in it for shady reasons, so I'm not Team Marcia. I don't like Marcia. So Tabitha and Roman are back in the room, and shocker, there's no sexual contact between Tabitha and Roman. So he's like, fuck it, let's get married. He's just sitting there. Come on, bro. Like, this is another weak proposal in this show where we had Tom's deciding to propose to Shiv in the hospital, and now Roman's just sitting on a couch casually mentioning it to Tabitha, and she's like, we haven't even had sex. We've only had sex once. So come on, Roman, do better. You got to pull out all the stops, man. At least pretend like you care. So we got Shiv and Jerry meeting, where Shiv now has the upper hand on the uh, Waystar company because of the information she got from Tom. So they're going to come to a deal where the TV networks stop attacking Gil, and they won't mention the information about the cruise. So good job here by Shiv, using her leverage to her advantage. We got Gil and Logan. Oh, we'll talk about that in a second. So Kendall's gonna have to move early during the wedding and show Logan his plan because he told Frank. So he's gonna have to deliver him an envelope, and yeah, this is just bad optics for Kendall having to do it during his sister's wedding. But you shouldn't have told Frank about the plan, but you did. So it's tomorrow. Gonna have to give it to Logan early. We will get into what happens then. We get a fun moment to end this episode off. A little bit of the siblings, minus Connor because no one told him, just smoking a J in their old spot because the wedding is at the old place where they used to live with Shiv, Kendall, and Roman's mother at the castle. So good moment here of them just smoking a J, being siblings, having a good time. And then they both have to leave because Shiv and Kendall have to leave because they got shit to do. So Greg is really trying to tell Tom about the Nate interaction, but Tom is just not listening. He just gets tackled by Tom. Tom's just not trying to hear it. Greg tried to do the right thing. Didn't work out. Logan and Gil come to a deal, as I mentioned before, with both sides agreeing to lessen their saying of things. So Gil is not going to say the things about the cruise ships that Tom has, and Logan is not going to say the thing about Gil, which I haven't mentioned at this point, but apparently his wife committed suicide within the past year, so they've been harping on that on the news channels, so they're not going to say that. Logan and Gil come to a deal, which is weird because we're supposed to believe they're enemies, and now they have a deal together. So all of the setup that occurs in this episode is crazy. I knew this finale was going to be a good one. Obviously some unexpected turns in the last episode, but I thought this was a good setup to the final episode of the season. So my favorite character of this episode was Kendall. He's mostly being a decent dude throughout the episode. Basically gets the plan to overtake, and he's looking good on that end. He's going to get his way. Obviously we'll see what happens next episode, but as of this episode, my favorite was Kendall. My least favorite was Tom. He just doesn't believe Greg about anything and is just being super blindly loyal to Shiv, as usual, being simp Tom. So Tom, you're my least favorite. And that'll wrap up episode 9. Episode 10, titled Nobody is Ever Missing. For those of you who know what team I am. Anyways, let's get into it, man. So, we got starting off with the family photo where Connor, once again, is just doing battle to get I can't even fucking speak. Where he's doing battle to get Willa into this picture. No one wants Willa in the picture because she's a former prostitute and could bring down the family name. Connor seemingly succeeds in this. Kendall is doing his scheme in the room. Moving on. Kendall is doing his scheme in the room, and he's super nervous that somebody's going to walk in. Somebody opens the door. They don't see who it is. Kendall's like, get the fuck out, get the fuck out. It's Iverson. Is it wrong to ask what's wrong with Iverson? What his case is? Just need details of that. Not really sure what's going on with him. He freaks out, and Rava, of course, is upset with him. So if someone knows what's wrong with Iverson, maybe I'll find out later. I don't know. Just seems like he's got a lot of issues. But moving on, I guess being a kid and getting yelled at is also not good. So yeah. So we got Kendall. He's got to deliver this letter. Cool shots here of him having to go through the wedding to go to Logan's room and deliver this envelope. So Logan, of course, is not receptive to this at all. He's not listening. He's trying to change the conversation. Just not good for Logan. He's got to be more receptive. He's got to be constructive. He's got to answer questions, but just won't be receptive. Gets upset with Kendall, of course. And yeah, so that's going to put a jolt in everyone's coffee in this wedding, is Kendall with the hostile takeover. So moving downstairs, we have Connor in a debate versus Gil, where Gil obviously is just not giving a shit about dating the least important Roy sibling. But Connor thinks he won this debate, which we'll move on to something later of Connor's motivations in this episode. But Connor, you didn't win. He was barely trying. So sorry, bro. Not good for you, but I guess, well, not good for you because of the path you're going to take yourself down the rest of this episode. So we stick with Roman, who pulls himself off into the bathroom to watch his launch in Japan, which has been his major project since episode 7 or 6. He's going to watch it go off on live stream on his phone. And of course, the thing goes completely wrong. The whole thing blows up. Felt sorry for Roman in this moment. Felt like a prove it moment for him with all the work he actually had to do. Of course, it goes wrong. Everything blows up. So we'll see what happens later on with that. So post his debate versus Gil, we have Connor, who now wants to be the president of the United States. Not sure I love it for you, Connor. I'm sorry, bro. Don't really see the vision here. He's kind of seems like he gets these ideas in his head where he just goes off on tangents and does random things. Like he'll just like start a podcast because he actually thinks people want to give a shit about what he has to say. I don't know anyone who do that. I don't know, bro. Connor is president. I don't know, dude. I don't really think he'd be a good president. He seems to not want to deal with confrontation, and presidents have to deal with confrontation. So that's a flaw I'm seeing immediately. I don't know if he was serious about this. He talks with Wyla later. It seems like he's serious, but I'm not sure where he gets the resources, where if he even has like any vote. I guess we'll see later on about this. Everyone at the wedding, is talking to Roman about how the launch went, because that's all he's been talking about for the last couple of weeks. They go up to him and like, how'd it go? And he's like, yeah, it went fine, I think. Gives the old like fake lie of it went fine. Yeah, sorry, bro. Roman, also just don't lie, though. The truth's going to come out eventually. You don't need to lie to people who are just in the company and going to find out anyways. So we get the wedding speeches. All decent speeches, I guess. Tom speaks, Logan speaks, Shiv speaks, I think Roman speaks. Shiv kind of just talks about herself, so as usual, self-centered Shiv. Still love you, though, but come on, man. So we got Shiv saying, I'm Shiv fucking Roy, to Nate in their confrontation about Gil, because Nate's now anti whatever Shiv's trying to push in this political thing that I just don't care to follow. But good for Shiv. Fuck Nate. Stand up for yourself. Say I'm Shiv fucking Roy. Good job to Shiv, so points to her. Kendall is going to roast the family, and Logan just roasts him back. This is all, of course, because of the hostile takeover that he has planned during Shiv's wedding, which is not a really cool move, but also it's all his fault still, because he shouldn't have told Frank about the wedding, but he tells Frank about the wedding, which puts in the motion that he has to be the one to deliver the letter and also start this right away. So sorry for you, Kendall, you're gonna get roasted. Anyways, moving on to the launch, where we have Jerry and Roman talking this through. It seems like Jerry's the only one really doing work on the Roy family side, which is fair from her, because she's not really involved in the family, so she doesn't have to enjoy this wedding. She's still putting in calls. Turns out nobody died in the launch, which is good for Roman. People only lost a couple of thumbs and maybe an arm, which I didn't understand how you do that in an explosion. Maybe this was all a joke. Maybe there actually was a lot of deaths in this explosion. Maybe I'm missing something here. Let me know. I don't know. How would you only lose thumbs in the explosion? I guess maybe if you're in the rocket. Guess we'll have to go to our science guys out there. So we get Greg the Egg with Kendall. Greg, noted guy to play all sides and get in with the good side. So once he hears the news, he says something to Kendall, and Kendall likes his vibe. He's like, Greg the Egg, you Machiavellian fuck. I love Kendall and Greg's relationship. Basically, Greg's relationship with everyone except for Tom, I'm enjoying. He's good comic relief, and he is the one who gets to be the explainer for the audience, because we don't really know what's going on. He clues us in by his asking questions. So props to Greg the Egg. So basically, moving on after the wedding night, Shiv starts to feel a little guilty about her relationship with Nate. So she and Tom are in the room, and she ends up telling him about Tom. So good for her. I mean, not telling Tom about Tom, telling Tom about Nate. So good for her. She gets her feelings out in the open. I thought this was actually a pretty good Shiv episode because she's actually being honest for once, where she mentions, I'm not a good fit for a monogamous marriage. Not really sure what that's supposed to mean. Once again, the timing in this show is not great. Doing this right after your literal wedding, but get it all out there. Her and Tom seem to reconcile. She goes on about not wanting to be the box set death march of marriage and being boring and living in this like basic marriage and whatever. So harkens back to my review of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where I mentioned that this was a fear of mine. So we see it come up here again. Being in a boring marriage is bad. So props to Shiv. Her and Tom get everything out there in the open. They seem to reconcile, live with their differences, and are going to be stronger moving forward. So good for them. We got Kendall being an obvious, no, not obvious. Kendall's just a fiend for coke and drugs at this point. He's going to go ask this waiter who had been fired before because he said something to Logan when Logan just heard the news from Kendall. So, of course, you're going to get fired, get NDA'd if you even talk to Logan when he's upset. So sorry for this waiter guy. He's out back smoking a J. Kendall's like, let me get some coke. Trying to ask everyone. Eventually finds this guy in the back. In between the probably biggest scene of the season, we have Tom putting on his big boy pants to confront Nate. Finally fucking does something about this, even though he just really found out for the first time, even though Greg was trying to tell him. He tells him his accommodation isn't going to work. He knows about everything that happened, and Nate is going to have to go home. Also emasculates Nate by making him pour the wine back into the bottle. So props to Tom here. Finally standing up for himself, standing up for his marriage. Good for him. And he gives a little nod to Greg, like, you were right. So Greg, in the good once again. He tries to tell people what they need to hear, but sometimes they're not always receptive. So respect to Greg here. Respect to Tom. So basically, back to our waiter and Kendall. The waiter knows a guy who has coke, but it's going to be a car drive. After this, they've already done ketamine and snorted ketamine and smoked weed. We get them driving to go find the coke plug. The waiter is distracted after he sees a deer in the middle of the road. He swerves off, goes into a pond. They're submerged. Kendall is able to free himself from the wreckage in the car. This is actually a pretty deep pond, it seems like, because he tries to go back under and save the guy, but the car is gone. It just sinks to the bottom. The driver is not going to make it. I thought the lead up to the car crash was kind of obvious. When you're driving, just seemed like they were going to crash. But waiter's a goner. This is a sad Kendall scene. He's got to hide and just pretend like this never happened. Kendall, I hope the idea of coke was worth it, man. This is why you don't do drugs. You become a fiend and ruin other people's lives. This guy's dead now because of Kendall, just because he wanted coke. Team Kendall, as I mentioned before, this is not good. This is a very bad episode for Kendall. He's a piece of shit for this. And he gets out of it, and Kendall goes a little psycho, being happy that he got out of this. Or he thinks he got out of this. It's just sad to see that this waiter is basically just going to die. No one's going to give a shit too badly, but we'll see later on. Some people do. So Kendall's, after like an hour later, changed out of his clothes. He's already over this. He's good to go. Actually has a very nice scene with his family, with the two kids and Rava dancing. So that was a lighthearted scene that made me happy for Kendall. Finally getting a moment with his family of happiness. And then we cut to our confrontation of the episode, which makes up the last scene of the season, which is Kendall in the morning. He's going to talk to Greg. Greg tells him that the guy died, and they don't really know what happened. Kendall's got his scrambled eggs. He's ready to eat breakfast. He's going to get out of this, but then his father wants to talk to him. He's in a room with Armand, I think his name is, which is Marsha's son, Marsha and Logan. Turns out they found a key card near the wreckage for Kendall's room, and initially Logan plays it off like someone may have stole things from Kendall's room, with this maybe a play for Armand to not know the truth, or Marsha. But once they leave the room, Logan basically is like, we know you did this, which of course he somehow knows. They put the pieces together, and yeah, Kendall's in deep shit. So of course Logan knows this, and uses this as leverage. He plays on Kendall's emotions. Kendall just starts bawling. Super hard scene to watch. Basically, Logan's like, you're going to have to tell Stewie that you're out of this. You're going to have to tell Furness you're out of this. You're my number one boy, which I think is something to note moving forward, where clearly Kendall has always been the one to be the prodigy and be the one to set up to run this business. So we'll see where that goes moving forward. But he plays on Kendall's emotions and just, wow, man. Another great episode here, ending it off into season 2. We don't really know what is going to happen here, but it seems like Kendall's going to rejoin the family and the business, and this plan for the hostile takeover is over. So that's going to lead us to season 2. So with that being said, let's get into our favorite and least favorite characters from the finale of season 1. So my favorite in this episode, I'm going to give it to Shiv. I think her first favorite, because why not? I think she's actually being honest with Tom for once and listening to him. So good for you, Shiv. Actually was honest and put her stuff in the open. They were able to reconcile some issues. Seems like they're going to be stronger moving forward. So Shiv, you get the favorite of the episode. Least favorite is unfortunately my boy Kendall. Hope that coke was worth it. You're a fucking fiend. You ruined an entire guy's life. He's dead. The cause of the death, and you lost the battle to unseat Logan. So Kendall's gonna be my least favorite. So now a couple thoughts just about the overall season. I'm really enjoying Succession so far. I'm excited to dive right into season 2. I just think it's been really good so far. I'm liking the way the show is shot. I'm liking the music. I'm liking the characters, the dynamics between everything, seeing how it all unravels. I'm really enjoying Succession after one season, so watch the trailer for season 2. Looks like Shiv's going to be involved in the business somehow, so looking forward to getting into that. As always, I will be keeping up with this show through reviews. I'm going to do every 5 episodes still, just because it's a lot to record for 5 episodes. May try and pull a guest. We'll see what happens, but yeah, those are my thoughts on season 1B basically of Succession. What did you guys think of my thoughts and reviews on it, and what were your thoughts and reviews on it? Appreciate y'all keeping up with everything on the pod. Gonna try and make everything better and better, so working on the editing and pulling in guests and stuff. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that 5-star rating on Spotify. Yeah. So with that being said, don't do coke once again.